In this video, I'm going to show you how to create containers with Bootstrap. Containers are a foundation for all of your site. When you work within the Bootstrap framework, everything that you code should reside in a container. There are some exemptions where you would not use a container, but typically you will use a container, and then within that container you will create rows and then columns to structure all of your information. So to go ahead and get started, we're going to jump back into our boilerplate template that we've pasted in from the Bootstrap website, and I'm going to go ahead and create a container for this. So I'm going to delete this hello world, and within that body tag I'm going to go ahead and create my container. So this container will is created within a div container. So I need to create a div, and then I'm going to give that class, the div, a class of container. Now within this container, I need to put in a little bit of content so we can see what's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and create a paragraph tag, and within there I'm going to create or paste some text that I have copied from a lorem ipsum generator. So there's our lovely 5 paragraphs of lorem ipsum. I'm going to style this real quick with a little bit of ending paragraph tags just to build in a little bit of styling. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and save that, and we'll jump into our live preview here. And there you can see there is that lorem ipsum text generated into our live preview within this container. So there are 2 different types of containers within Bootstrap. This one that we've created is a fixed width container. So once we get very large, past a 1200 pixel breakpoint, it is going to stop responding. So it's going to no longer get larger. I happen to be on a laptop which does not have the biggest screen size, so if I was on it, you can see where it's not pulling out any further than this. So this is about 1200 pixels wide. So if I was on a great big screen, eventually it would stop responding out and you would just have that white edges on both sides. So the other type of container that we can create is called a fluid width container. So I'm going to jump back into my code. I'll navigate to the end of this div that I've created. And I'm going to go ahead and comment this out really quick just for my own bookkeeping, just so I can keep it all straight because it gets to be a little confusing. So I'm going to say end of fixed width container. Great. So now I'm going to create a new div. And I'm going to give that a class of container fluid. And I'm going to paste that same text. I'm going to go ahead and put the paragraph tags around it. I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to check my preview. Refresh here, and there you can see there is my fluid width container. Now you notice that since this is going to pass the 1200 pixel size, that right here I'm getting that white space, so that indicates to me that this is about 1200 pixels wide because it has stopped responding and going out to forever wide. When I have a fluid width container, it's going to go all the way edge to edge, with the exception of there's 15 pixels of padding on either side. So Bootstrap by default, whenever you create a container like that, it is going to put 15 pixels of padding on either side. That ensures that you don't have any text that is going to smash into the edge of your browser window. So that's part of that framework that is built in when you use that CDN. So now that we have these containers created, I just want you to see something as we resize that window. So because Bootstrap is automatically mobile responsive, you'll see that this text is responding. And Bootstrap has, by default, 5 different breakpoints. So the extra large breakpoint is anything that has a max width of 1140 pixels. The large breakpoint has a max width of 960 pixels. The medium one is 720 pixels. The small is anything 540 pixels or between 540 and 720 big. And then extra small is going to be smaller than that 540. So once you get down below, that means typically a cell phone would be that extra small breakpoint. So you can see that that text is responding and breaking, and you can see it kind of when you hit those breakpoints, it starts jumping. So because we only have text, it's pretty fluid. And then you can see once we've, particularly with the fixed columns or fixed width container, you can see right there is a breakpoint. And that's where it's jumping between that extra large and large. So those are the column widths that Bootstrap uses. It's good to keep that in your mind as you're creating and as you're coding within Bootstrap. So another thing that we can do with our containers is we can mess around with a little bit of padding to our containers. So by default, you can also add some of the semantic colors to your containers as well. And that works by calling for that within the classes. So within my class of container, I'm going to go ahead and add some of the Bootstrap contextual classes. So I can change the background to be a dark background. So that would be BG for background, dark, and that will make it a dark background. Since it's a dark background, I need to set the text to white. So text white. I'll go ahead and save that, and you can see the difference here. You can see that that is flipped to a dark background with white text. And you can now see the defining areas of that container. So you can see where the container is ending and where the browser window is. So notice the difference when I go ahead and go into container fluid and change that to BG primary text white. Save that. And there you can see that that's pulled out the contextual color class, primary, which is a blue, and then you can see that this is going all the way to the ends when it is a responsive or a fluid container. So I can also use some of the Flexbox classes within here as well, and we'll touch on some of the Flexbox classes that are built into Bootstrap in another tutorial. But so if I wanted to add some additional padding, I can just simply type in P, which stands for padding, set that to 3, save it, and you can see that added 16 pixels of padding, or that's padding of 3. So it already had a little bit, it just kind of moved that a little bit over. You can add padding. You can also add in margins as well if you wanted to add in margin of 3. You can add in margins to that too. Those all work, and you see that scooted that and gave me a really funky looking margin. So I'm going to remove that. I don't like that so well. But you can just, for your awareness, you can add any of these Bootstrap classes right into the div of its class container, and it will affect the entire thing. So I'm going to go ahead and take some of these out. Save that so it's not looking so funky. And that is the basics of your containers. You can also code your containers to be responsive containers, so you can set some of those size classes to them as well, that extra large, large, medium, small, and extra small. So to set the responsive sizing for any of these containers, you simply have to go to where you have the class of container, and then you can set the size of that. So XL would be extra large, LG for large, MD for medium, SM for small. So it would be container large. And then this will now, at the large breakpoint, make my container go full width. So it'll go to 100% at that large breakpoint. So let me go ahead and save that. And then we will test this out. And so when I hit that large breakpoint, there we go, that's when it's going to go ahead and jump to 100% width of that container. So you see where at this point it is still that fixed width container, and then at the large breakpoint it's going to go to 100%. And the difference being, I will show you how it's going to respond without that. So if I take out the large, save, and then now at this size, and you see that it's going to keep responding. So that's the difference in adding those classes to that. So I'll do one more, I'll make it medium. And then you can see once it jumps down to that medium there, it goes to 100% the width that you need. So that is another way to bring in a responsive sizing to the widths of your containers. So to set the responsive sizing for any of these containers, you simply have to go to where you have the class of container, and then you can set the size of that. So XL would be extra large, LG for large, MD for medium, SM for small. So it would be container large. And then this will now, at the large breakpoint, make my container go full width. So it'll go to 100% at that large breakpoint. So let me go ahead and save that. And then we will test this out. And so when I hit that large breakpoint, there we go, that's when it's going to go ahead and jump to 100% width of that container. So you see where at this point it is still that fixed width container, and then at the large breakpoint it's going to go to 100%. And the difference being, I will show you how it's going to respond without that. So if I take out the large, save, and then now at this size, and you see that it's going to keep responding. So that's the difference in adding those classes to that. So I'll do one more, I'll make it medium. And then you can see once it jumps down to that medium there, it goes to 100% the width that you need. So that is another way to bring in a responsive sizing to the widths of your containers.